What's up, everybody? How's it going? I see we're getting into the games already, huh? Hey, Jake. Hey, Leah. Hey, Scott. Hey, Elliot. How's it going? You want more skin? I could take off the shirt. Can take it off, guys. All right, it is 8 o'clock on the dot. We are going to get started. We got a jam-packed night tonight. I don't know when M-Tools and I are getting married. We're still trying to pick a date, I think. All right, let me just share this screen with you guys. Welcome to Zero to Hero Week 2. So a few things tonight. We're going to be doing housekeeping, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We're going to go into Python 101 for about an hour and 45 minutes, and then we are going to do some Q&A as always. So right into the housekeeping. So we made some minor changes. Had somebody do a little pen testing on my system, the gaming system that we have, the heist and everything else. They figured a way out to game the system a little bit. So I've taken that down temporarily. I brought it back up, just changed some of the rules on it. I let them keep their points because it was a vulnerability that I left up, and they got the reward for the points. You'll notice that the heist system only allows you to play once every 3 minutes. That is just because we received a couple complaints that it was just full of people typing and they couldn't keep up with the game channels. So games are there to have fun, win money, whatever. You guys like gambling. Other than that, that's really it on the changes. If you are in the South Carolina area this weekend, I will be at B-Sides on Saturday in Greenville, South Carolina. I will be on a panel. If you want to hang out, come see me. Just have a good time at B-Sides. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on there this weekend, so please feel free to come say hi if you are there. Thanks for the sub as well, Fahad. I appreciate that. So today's lesson is going to be in Python 3. There are still some debates whether Python 2 or Python 3 is the right way to go. My reasoning for Python 3 is that we're ending support for Python 2 in 2020. So the sooner that we convert over, the better, I think. So I'll give you some resources and references that are Python 2 that you can work on converting into Python 3. So if you missed the homework announcement, if you're not on the mailing list or in the channel, the Discord channel, then you probably missed what we did for homework over the week. Let me go ahead and just pull that up for you guys. So if you are not already subscribed to the mailing list, if you come to thecybermentor.com and you just hit contact subscribe, in here you can just subscribe. That is where I send out the homework. If you do not like email, I also paste the homework once a week inside of our Discord. If you come to this Discord link right here or up here or anywhere on the page, you can get that information. But for those of you who missed it and those of you who are following along at a later time just watching the streams, we did cover Python Security Professionals Archive here. This is called Python for Security Professionals. It is by Joe Perry at Cybrary. He also has a course that is Introductory Python. You may get those two confused, so make sure that you're looking at this one. Let me refresh here. Hey, thanks for the subs again, guys. I appreciate that. So it has some nice build-up. I did this on my way to the OSCP. I did it like a week or two before the OSCP, and it was plenty enough to get through the OSCP. So it has Apprentice, Journeyman, Advanced. You end up building some cool projects out, and it's one of the things I recommend. It is Python 2. It is a little bit older, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn the concepts, and that's really what we're after today. The other one is Learn Python 3 over at Codecademy. So Codecademy gives you a week free of Pro. You don't have to enter a credit card, nothing fancy there. It just gives you a week to try anything out that you want. So if you register under a new email, if you've already used it or whatever, you can come in here and learn Python 3 for free. So this is also a great resource if you want to get some hands-on. There's plenty of other ones. If we want to talk about resources that are hacking related, we've got the well-known Violent Python, we've got Black Hat Python, and we've got Gray Hat Python. So great books. All of them are a little bit older. They're written in Python 2. So my challenge to people is to try to take some of the concepts that are in these books and try to convert them over to Python 3. Not only is that a good challenge, just for yourself, but it really gets you to understand the concepts on both a Python 2 and Python 3 level. So other than that, let's go back to our PowerPoint real quick. I do have additional material other than what I just gave out. I have a cheat sheet. Let me paste that into the chat. This is provided by Jeff. Jeff is one of the students, and this is great. This is hosted over at Darknet Diaries. If you don't know what Darknet Diaries is, I'd recommend checking that out too. It's a really great podcast. But this is a nice little Python cheat sheet that if you want to remember anything from tonight, has just really well laid out. This is beginner stuff. This isn't all the things you're going to need to know, but we're going to talk on that as well. So when it comes to Python 101 and what we need to know, I have about an hour and 45 minutes is kind of what we allocated tonight that I want to teach you guys. That's obviously not going to be enough to teach you everything you would ever need to know in Python. You would need weeks and weeks of that. My goal for tonight is that I want you to be able to understand what you're looking at. It reinforced some of the concepts from last week, because last week we talked about scripting, we covered loops, we covered variables, we saw some scripting concepts. We're going to reinforce those harder tonight, and by the end of it, my goal is I'm going to take two scripts. I'm going to show you two scripts. They're going to be advanced. They're going to be more advanced than what we've covered. One's going to be it's going to be on the medium basic side. The second one's going to be on the more advanced side. We won't have not covered half of what's in there. But my goal is that we read it and you can understand what's going on. And at a Python 101 level, really that's what we need. At a junior pen tester level, you just need to understand what's going on. As you move up and you get more advanced, if you want to start writing your own scripts to automate things, if you want to get better at this, that's your prerogative. It helps you, absolutely. The better dev you are, the better coder you are, the better hacker you can be, I think, in my opinion. It does not mean that you need to know Python full in and out. You can make a career out of pen testing without ever knowing Python fully. Just being able to understand what you're seeing really, really helps. So if at the end of the night, I'm going to put up a poll. If you feel like you could use another week of Python, you want more of this, we'll dive into it next week again, maybe an hour, maybe the whole week, depending on the lesson plan that I put together. If you feel like, okay, we're good, let's go on, this is fine, you've provided homework that covers more than this, I want to move on to the hacking, then next week we're going to actually start into the hacking concepts and start with a little reconnaissance and have some fun. So it's completely up to you guys. When the night is over, you'll decide what we do next week. So other than that, we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. So I'm going to be using Kali tonight, same as always. And what I've done is I've made a folder here, just made a directory called week 2. I just recommend that for keeping all of your information in here. What we're going to be doing tonight is making one long Python script. So it's going to be a little jumbled. We're going to make comments and stuff to really make it kind of make sense. My reasoning for this is I want you to have everything that we did in one place. And so when you want to go back and reference something, you have a notebook kind of already started. You've got the concepts already there. If you want to build upon it, you're more than welcome. And we're gonna extend from there. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So if you are having issues with gedit like I was last week, if your gedit does not work when we do this, go ahead and just type in apt purge gedit and then apt install gedit. I'm going to be working in gedit today. We're not going to be working in IDE. If we cover next week, we'll cover IDEs and everything else. But for now, gedit's going to be fine. So I'm going to call this Python 101.py. Okay. And if this is too small, let me know, guys, and I'll try to increase the size on this. So what we're going to be doing is we need to first declare, like we did last week, we're going to declare with a hash bang of a bin Python 3. Remember we did that with bash? So same thing here. We're just going to be calling out Python 3. And the first thing I want to show you guys are strings. So, you know, the typical program starts, if you take a programming class, it always starts with hello world. So it's not going to really be any different here. What we're going to do is I'm going to put in a comment first. And this is just a comment when you use a hashtag like this. I'm just going to say this is how you print a string, or we're going to be printing a string. And we're going to be using the print command to go ahead and print out to our console or our terminal here. So we're just going to say print, and we're going to call this little category strings and things. Now you've noticed that I've put everything here in quotation marks. So if you see something in quotations like this, this indicates that it's a string. Now, alternatively, we can do that with single quotes. We can say hello world like this, and that'll be fine as well. And finally, we can also print something like multi-line. We can say hello, this is a multi-line string, and we'll just put it in triple quotes like that. So let's go ahead and just save this. And what I've done, so we don't have to keep closing the editor out, I've gone ahead and opened up a new tab right here that we're going to just be firing off the script and seeing what posts to the console. So what we need to do first, remember from last week, we need to make this file executable. So whatever you called it, python101.py, we're going to make executable. And then I'm just going to say python3 python101.py. You can see we pasted out strings and things, hello world, and then hello, this is a multi-line string. So everything is working out so far. And we can also do concatenation inside of print if we wanted to. So if we said print, this is, and then we could just put plus in here and say a string, that would also work. And we'll get more into concatenation a little bit later. Okay, so what we're going to do and kind of separate this from our sections, this is just a brief introduction here on strings. What we're going to do is just print a new line. So I'm going to show you how to print a new line. And then we can put a comment right here to say a new line. Okay. And then we're going to dive right into math. And if you guys need any concepts slowed down, please let me know. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so I'm just going to dive through some of these ones faster. Some of the other ones that we're going to go through are going to be slower. So, hey Gray, how's it going? Okay, so for math, we're going to print out, we're just going to call this one math time, right? So that's our little section here. And we could do a lot of math in Python without having to call any sort of math module. So let's take a look at some of the things that we can actually do. So we can add, and you can use whatever numbers you want. I'm going to go 50 plus 50. I'll put a note next to it that says add. We can subtract 50 minus 50. We can multiply 50 times 50. We can divide. And we'll talk a little bit about division here in a second. We can do some crazy stuff, right? We can do 50 plus 50 minus 50 times 50 divided by 50. We'll just call that PEMDAS. Is it maths? All right, we're doing maths. Here, Leah, there you go. Maths. And then we'll say print 50 times 50, or 50 times 2, sorry. we can do exponents. So we're raising this to the second power here. A couple more things, and I'll cover what all these are again. I have a space in here. Spacing is everything. Don't have the spaces. We could do this little modulo here. So this is called a modulo. And we can also do something that looks like this. We'll just call this a number without leftovers. Okay, so for a couple of these things. So this is going to multiply 50 times 50 because we're doing exponents, right? That should make sense. If you're not math background, that's fine. This modulo here, what this is going to do is it's going to take whatever is remaining. So 6 times 8 is 48, so this should return 2. Because it goes into, 6 goes into 58 times and then has 2 left over. So if for some reason we wanted to do the remainder, that's called a modulo, we'll do that. When we divide over here, 50 by 50, if it was 51 by 50, it would return 1 point whatever, right? So we'd have leftovers. We would have a non-int, we'd call that a float. But here, if we wanted a number, just a number with no leftovers after it, no digits or anything here, we would use this double division. And we can kind of take a look at what all this looks like. So let's save that. And let's just tab up and print again. And you can kind of see what this looks like. So if we don't have a decimal place here, then we can assume that the number is actually just an integer. But when we do have the decimal, that is called a float. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Those become important when we want to declare our numbers. In Python, these are two different things, so we got to make sure that we know exactly what kind of number we want. And we'll get into that just in a little bit. So on top of strings and maths, we can do some cool other things as well. Like we can declare variables. So let's create a section here, and we'll just call it variables. We'll call it methods as well, because we're going to have some methods. Hey, Nate, how's it going, man? I'm just going to capture this new line, copy this new line, and we're going to paste it right in here. How long will it take somebody with no programming background to be comfortable with Python? To be comfortable, I mean, you'd have to, it depends on your own, I guess your own level, but it's pretty basic. It's one of the, they're moving towards Python for the introductory programming classes now, like the 101s are starting to do Python instead. A lot of the concepts are really basic. I think to get at an intermediate level, you'd probably have to spend some time in it. But at an introductory level, I would say a month or two of just playing around, reading it. It doesn't take too long. It's not like it's not basic enough where you're going to become a developer overnight, but it's definitely probably the most simple or one of the most simple programming languages to learn. That's why it's considered a decent foundation. Okay, so we're going to have some fun with variables and methods. So like we've been doing, let's just print a little title out. We'll call this fun with variables and methods. And let's declare a variable. We're just going to call it quote. And inside this quote, we're going to have a string. So we're going to say, yes, thank you. I have some issues with I'm a caps lock person, not a shift person. So the caps lock hangover when I'm typing sometimes, and in my VM, it hangs over just a bit. So we're going to say all is fair in love and war. Don't judge me, guys. Don't judge me. I could type faster than probably most of you. I won't say all of you because I am not going to claim that. Okay, so we say print length quote here. So if we have this quote and we want to print the length of the quote here, we could do that with just print length and the variable quote put into it. And I'll just say length. You'll see what all this looks like here in a second. And then let's say we wanted to turn that quote into an upper. We could say something like quote dot upper. This would turn it all uppercase, right? We can also do a lowercase. We could say quote dot lower. Make it lowercase. Or we can print it out in title form. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, we've got caps lock squad in here. Yeah, guys, back down. You don't know what's up. We rolled deeper than you think. So let's save this and run it again. Okay, so you can see it counted here with the length. It's got 27 on this string. All is fair in love and war. You can see it put it all in caps, all in lowercase, and then it titled it here for us as well, which capitalizes every first letter. It's not perfect. It's not like the official titling system, but if you need every first letter capitalized, for some reason, you might be able to use it. I don't know when you would use title. That's a great question. I have no idea. I've never used title. But it's cool little thing to know. All right, let's do another variable. Let's set your name as a variable here. So we'll just say Heath. And then we'll say age. Okay, I'm 29. Remember, this is an integer, right? It also can look like this, int of 29. If we wanted to declare it as an integer, int of 29. Okay, let's say that my grade point average in college was a 3.7. Now, why are we doing this? Because this is a float, or it could look something like this, float 3.7. Hey, thanks, Shu, for the subs, man. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Okay, so we've got these three here, right? We've got three different variables we've got set. Now, we can go ahead and print some things. Let's just say, let's print the integer of my age, right? That should return 29 because that's the int. But if we print the integer of my age, say I'm 29.9 years old, right? If we print that out, what is that going to return? Let's take a look at it. Up one. It's actually going to return 29. So you think here that it would round up, but integer does not round. It just takes the first number and leaves off the rest after the decimal. So just keep that in mind going forward as well. We can say a little note next to it. Just say does not round, right? We can also call out, in a print statement, we can call out our variables. So if you want to say print, my name is, make sure to add a space, and then say plus name. And then you could say space, and I am space. Now we could say age, and say years old. Now this statement is not going to work. Does anybody know why this isn't going to work? There's something here that is not like the rest. You have to convert to a string. Exactly, string versus int. Good job, guys. You don't even need this lesson. You guys are too good. All right. So our age is sitting here, and it's an integer. We can't put an integer in a string. We're going to have to actually convert this to a string. We'll just say string. You cannot have different types. Exactly. So we can see what this looks like. My name is Heath, and I am 29 years old. Cool. So a few other things we can do. I'm going to go ahead and just add in a little new line here. Okay. Some things that we can use to play around with here. So let's say we have age. And let's say that I got a little bit older. I can say that I got older a year. And if we printed this age, that would now make me 30. We can prove that by a quick save and run. Okay, now age is set to 30. So two things that we're noticing here. One is the obvious, right? With the plus equals, we're adding something into what's already there. So we are adding a 1 into this age. Now I am 30. Also, that means we are changing the variable itself, right? So we are going to be changing the variable. It's no longer 29. It does not always hold true to 29. Now it's holding to 30. So we've appended the variable. So we could also do, though, something like birthday is equal to 1. And you could say age plus equals birthday. And if you printed age here, I would now be 31. We are going to be going over functions. We're going to hit functions pretty hard, and functions are coming up next. So actually, that is it for this little section. We're actually going to hit functions right now. So good timing on that question. So we can save this, just prove out that we've hit 30 and 31, which we did. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into functions. So let's go ahead and just print out a new line again. We'll call this functions. We are doing an AMA after this, yes. There will always be an AMA. I need a drink, so give me 1 second, guys. I'm talking too much. Okay. So now with a function, when we talk about functions, we talk about doing something for us. We're talking about a whole line of code in one defined area that we can call back at a later time. So if we're doing something repeatedly in our code, it would be better to actually just write a function for that, and so that we can just write that code one time and call the function later or repeatedly that we need to, than to write out this code block and have a long code for no reason. So that's kind of the point of functions, and it's going to make a little bit more sense here in a second. So let's print out. We'll just say now some functions. Okay. So we're going to say define. We're going to call this who am I? And now this is where everything comes into play, where it comes into spacing, syntax, tabs. This is something that's very, very particular to Python. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to hit tab. Make sure to hit tab, or else your program won't work correctly. Make sure you also have the colon as well. So we're going to say name equals Heath, similar to before. Age equals 29. And then we're going to print the same thing from earlier. I'm just going to copy and paste it all into one. Okay. So now we can call the function. with just saying, who am I? Like that, right? So if we save this and print it out, let's see if anything happens. Okay, it returned the function. So what happened is we declared a variable, we declared another variable, and then we printed something out. Then when we called this function, everything inside of it happened. So what this means is everything that lives inside this function stays inside this function, and that'll become more apparent as we go. If I were to call, if I were to set the name, okay, let's call this name1, and we'll make this same here. We don't have a name1 variable anywhere, right? So let's just say print name1. We say save, and then we try to print. There's not a name1 defined because name1 actually resides in the function itself. So make sure that you know that if you're declaring a variable for the first time here, and it resides in your function, it's only in your function. And thanks for those of you who are helping with the code that understand it. I don't have time with as much as we've got to cover to answer everybody's questions, so I really appreciate you guys helping out with those questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this print name1. We don't need that. So we can actually also call parameters, right? So let's take a look at what a parameter might look like. And we'll just put a little tag up here that says adding in parameters. Okay, and we're going to define a new function. And this is going to be really simple. This function is going to be called add100. And we're going to say the parameter is called num. And what we're going to do is we're going to print a number, that parameter num, plus 100. And that's it. So our function, all we're doing is we're giving it a number and we're going to add 100 to it. So it's a very, very simple little program here. Like somebody said, it's a mini program. That's really what it is. Okay, so now if we call in add 100 and we call 100, it's going to be 200, right? Let's print it and find out. We still have name1 somewhere. Where did I put it? In the string? I took it out of there. Let's try it again. See, now we're at 200. Okay, so just think about these as little mini programs. We can also add in, though, we can add in multiple parameters. So what if we define something like add x and y? And then we just wanted to print out x plus y. Okay, now we've got a little addition program, right? Not to say that Python doesn't already do it, but this is just for proof of concept. Let's add 7 plus 7, and let's add 305 plus 207. I don't know. And not with the plus sign, with a comma. Okay, so we've got that. We got 14, which is correct, and we got 512, which is correct. So we can also use something. This whole time now, we've been using something called print, right? But we can also do something called return, where we return the value and we store it for later. So let's talk about using that. We'll say using return. Okay, so let's say define multiply. We'll call it x and y again. And this time we're just going to return x times y. If there's another Heath in here, that's awesome. You're probably a good looking dude. Just saying. Okay, so now if we wanted to print out that information, we could say print multiply And then we can give it 7, 7 again if we want. Let's see if it's 49. Just take a look. Okay, and we got 49. We could also make a program called square root. Let's try that. So if we say define square root, well, let's give it one parameter of x. What if we return x to the exponent of 0.5? Okay, so now we say print square root of 64. Save this. And we get 8. We actually get a float of 8. And that's it on the function side. How are you feeling about the functions? Who was it asking? Was it Dodo? While I take a drink and stall for a second. Yeah, if we do IDEs, we'll get into those next week if we do another week. But IDEs are very nice. IDEs nuts. Nice. I like it. All right. No complaints on the functions. We're going to go ahead and move on. So we're going to be talking about Boolean expressions next. So let's go ahead and add a new line here. Call it Boolean expressions, and then we'll also, in parentheses, I'll just put true or false. And note that true and false are capitalized. I should have a function for a new line. You're so smart. See, this is why White Rose gets paid the big bucks. I'll let you guys do that. You can write a function for your new line. Okay, so true or false. Note again that true or false is capitalized. So we're going to have a little print statement, because I like a little title here. We'll just call it, very simply, Boolean expressions. Okay, we're going to print out a bunch of bools here. So we'll call bool 1. We're just going to call it true. Okay. But what about bool 2? We'll make bool 2. What about 3 times, if I could type, 3 times 3 is equal to 9. That's also true. And notice what I did there. The 2 equals is an equal, right? If you have the 1 equal, we're talking about a variable. So make sure if you're doing an expression that you're setting it with equal equal. Okay, let's look at a couple more. Bool 3, let's just set that to false. And bool 4, let's call this 3 times 3 does not equal 9. So that's also false, right? And we can do a quick check. We could say print bool 1, bool 2, bool 3, bool 4. Okay. And we can also print out a type to check. Let's just say type. Let's hit Python 3. Okay, so as expected, true, true, false, false. So you see, even though we put in this equation here, it's not doing any math. It's checking for whether it's true or false. So it did come in as true, and this expression came in as false. And the thing I wanted to show you here was when we have this type becomes important, right? You can check what kind of type the class is. This class is a bool. But what if, put bool 5, and we said it was equal to true like this? Well, what does that become? I'm sure everybody gets this, right? Or bool 5. Becomes a string, that is correct. Class changes. It's a string. Okay, so there are these charts. Let me pull one up for you. I think they're called truth charts? Truth tables. Where we'll get into this in a minute when we get into our statements, right? We're going to talk about operators in just a second. And then we're going to talk about these charts. But we're going to get into these not, or, and then we have these true or false, true and false. And it'll get interesting in just 1 second. So let's dive into that. So what we're going to call these are relational and Boolean operators. Okay, so let's create some variables real quick. Let's say greater than is equal to 7 greater than 5. And less than is equal to 5 less than 7. This one's going to be a long one. Greater than equal to is 7. It's greater than or equal to 7. Or less than or equal to 7 less than or equal to 7. Now, hey, thanks for the sub, Jake. Appreciate it. So if we print all this, which is a pain to type, I could have made these shorter. I tried to make it logical. We hit save, print it. Everything is true. So I threw some new operators at you here, right? We've got greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Let's throw a couple more in there. Okay, let's call this one test and we'll make it shorter. And we'll say 7 is greater than 5 and 5 is less than 7. We'll cover these in a second. I'm just going to type it out. Test or 7 is greater than 5 or 5 is less than 7. Test not. We'll just say not true. Okay. So we have these statements here. We said 7 is greater than 5. Okay, that's true. And 5 is less than 7. Okay, that's true. So this would be a true statement. This would return true. Now, if we said 8 was less than 7, this would become a false statement. And that's where the truth tables come into play, right? Because for an and statement, both conditions have to be true. For it to be true, if it's true and false or false and false, then the statement becomes false. One false in this statement makes it all false. Now, if it's true or false, then we have, okay, true. We have true or true here, which is true. If we have true or false, it still remains true. If we have false or false, then it becomes false. And then we have a not here, we say not true, okay, then that's false. Or not false would be true. And we could check the truth tables and kind of go over those as well. Not false is true, not true is false, you see that? True or false is true, true or true is true, false or true is true, false or false is false. And I'll send this out in the chat so you guys can see this. You are correct, White Rose. I should have had that. And as I was typing that out, I was surprised that one of those was not. So that was my mistake. But White Rose is correct. One of these should prove that this would return false. So if we make it 8 is less than 7, we can prove that. Like this. If I could type, apparently I can't type. And you see it returns false. So if we made it 6, where both conditions are true, then it becomes true. Hey, thanks for the sub, Iayo. Appreciate that. Starting to lose my voice. We're not even an hour in, guys. I'm weak. Okay. I'm trying to keep my sultry voice. I'm trying to. All right. I'm still going to copy and paste. You guys aren't going to change my ways. All right. Let's talk about conditional statements. Just going to print out conditional statements. Can you guys see all right in terms of this console? I know it's probably late to ask. Is everybody able to see this on like a full screen level? Or should I try to boost this up? I don't know what the options are for that. A tidbit? I can zoom in a tidbit. If I know how to zoom in a tidbit. Somebody knows the way. Text editor and top bar. Oh, you guys are awesome. All right. Aha. You guys are the real mentors. Look at you. Actually, I'm still going to keep this lowered. Is that better? Better 1, better 2? Okay. Sorry, guys. We'll note for future lessons. A tidbit better? All right. Let's do some conditional statements. We are going to do if or else, and we're going to try to buy a soda. I don't like dark. I like light. All right, so let's define a function. We're going to call it soda, and it's going to take one parameter called money. And I want to buy this soda. But I want to buy this soda if I have enough money to do it. So let's say the soda costs $2. So if I want to buy the soda, and I have $2 or more, then we can return, you've got yourself a soda. And I keep doing it. Caps lock gang. If we don't have $2 or more, then we have an else statement. So if one thing is true, we're going to return one thing. Else, we're going to return something else. It's a pop if you're from like Ohio, Michigan, maybe Kentucky. What are the chances those people are here right now? And here we're just going to return no soda for you. Yeah, they don't have the internet. Okay, so let's print out soda and say we've got $3. Let's also print out soda and say we've got $1. Okay, you see with $3, we've got ourselves a soda. If not, we do not have a soda. Okay. Let's do one a little bit more complicated. I guess not too complicated. So let's define one for alcohol. Well, we need money, but we also need to be of age, right? So if our age is greater than or equal to 21, this is in the States, people. And let's say the drink costs $5. Then we'll return, we're getting tipsy. If that's not true, we can do something called an else if we have another statement. What are some things we need to think about? What if our age is greater than 21, but we're broke? Then we're going to say return, come back with more money. Okay, what if we have the money, but we're not 21? Well, then we can return, nice try, kid, right? Lastly, if we don't have the money and we're not of age, you're too poor and too young. I think you would only want to print if you want to print to your screen. We're returning here because we're just returning the function, or returning the, I guess, the string, if that makes sense, for what we're doing, but we don't have to print it out right now. But if you want to print out the results, then that's when you would use print, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's print out some results here. Let's just test a few things. Let's say we're 21, we got $5. Let's also say we're 21, we got $4. And lastly, we are 20 with $4. Okay, save it and print. So you could say it says we're getting tipsy, come back with more money, and you're too poor and too young. Okay, that is it for conditional statements. Any questions on conditional statements? We're actually going through a little faster than I hope, which is good though. So we have a jam-packed night. No questions? Good. Okay. Let me go copy and paste my new line, my copy pasta. Okay, next we're going to be talking about lists. After lists, we're going to run into tuples really, really quick, and then we're going to talk about looping. So let's go ahead and say lists. Okay. Print out a little friendly reminder. You need both? I can do that. There you go. Okay, so we're going to print out lists have brackets. Let's make a list. I'm going to make a list of some of the movies that I like. Let's say When Harry Met Sally. The Hangover. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The Notebook. And The Exorcist. Throwing that one in there for Jeff, if Jeff's in here somewhere. Okay, so we've got this list. And we could do lots of different things with this list. For example, let's say we wanted to return the first item in the list. What do you think? Would this do it? Let's print it out and see what happens here. We have printed The Hangover. That is the second movie in our list. Okay, so when we're dealing with lists and dictionaries and whatever else, we're going to be running from 0 on. So 1 is actually number 2, if that makes sense. So if we want to print the first movie in the list, we actually have to call out a 0, hit save on that, and then you can see now the first movie that prints is When Harry Met Sally. So remember that numbering starts at 0. Okay. Let's say we wanted to pull a list here and we wanted to pull out of this list the first item and the second item. Don't get ahead of me with -1. We're getting there. Okay, let's say if we want to get the first item and the second item. So print movies, do something like this, 1 to 3. Now this is weird too, right? Okay, we did get the first item, sorry. I said first item and second item. I meant second and third, but I'll switch it because that's the right thing to do. Okay, so we pulled out When Harry Met Sally and The Hangover, but we called 0, 1, and 2. Well, this is a special case as well, right? We actually, when we want to call a list like this, we have to call out the next number as the ending number. So we call the starting number we want and then one more than we actually want. So if we wanted the Perks of Being a Wallflower in there as well, okay, we'll save 03, print Python 101, and now you see that we have 3 movies in there. So it's a little funky. What if we did something like this? And this is called slicing. That's a great way to think about it. Up to, but not including. Thank you for that. What's this look like? So we're just printing out the entire list from starting point of 1 till it ends, right? And what about if we print movies and we say something kind of opposite? Okay, we just pull out When Harry Met Sally because we slice and we stop at 1. So we're only pulling out the first movie there. Okay, somebody already spoiled it. We won't name names, guys. You can name names. But snitches get stitches. Just remember that. Snitches get stitches. All right. Let's check the -1 out. Pulls out The Exorcist. So -1 pulls the last item out of the list. Okay. And lastly, we can also print the length of this and see how many movies are in this list here. Got 4 movies in list. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, on to some other tricks. Let's say we want to add a movie to this list. Say we want to add in Jaws. We'll just type movies.append Jaws. Now, if we say print movies, where do we think Jaws is going to be at? Beginning, middle, end, random? Yeah, -1. Right, the end. Jaws is now in at the end. Okay, what if we wanted to remove Jaws? Could do this cool little trick called pop. If you don't give any number to pop, pop just removes the last item in the list. So if we pop this list here, and we say print movies, okay, try it again, you'll see that Jaws is now gone. Okay, we've got a food theme going, White Rose. It's all right. All right, let's say we wanted to remove a specific item. Let's get rid of, we'll get rid of The Hangover. Let's say it was The Hangover 3 and we didn't like it. Okay, well, we'll put in 1. Remember, it's a second item in our list. Print movies again. You can see The Hangover is now gone. Okay. We can also pair these lists together. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to copy, paste this whole thing again. Just keep the same list. And let's add to this another list. Let's say for person, let's say that my favorite movie is When Harry Met Sally. And I don't know, we'll say Jake likes The Hangover. And Leah likes Perks of Being a Wallflower because she's British and loves Emma Watson. And we know Jeff likes The Exorcist. So we'll do that. Okay. So now, let's say we want to combine these two together. Let's say we want to pair it up just the way it is. Okay, let's call another variable. We'll call it combine. We can do something called zip. We say zip, movies, person, and then we're going to print it out as a list, combine. So zip is storing it into memory, I believe is how that works, and then you put it down into a list. And we print the list, and you can see that, okay, I like this movie, Jake likes The Hangover, Leah likes The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and Jeff likes The Exorcist. Yeah, neat little trick. It's listception. It is a list in a list. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's really it for list. What happens if you have 4 movies but 3 people? That's a good question. You won't have anything there. Let's see. Let's just take out Jeff. Bye, Jeff. Let's try it again. Ah, look. It's just gone. There is no Exorcist tied to Jeff. There's no Exorcist at all. We just exercised Jeff. I'll add Jeff back. There's been requests for Jeff to come back. All right. Okay, he's there. Let's be happy. Okay, somebody just mentioned tuples. We're going to talk about tuples really quick. Very quick. We might actually get done early. I don't know. Okay, tuples have parentheses and cannot change. So think of a tuple as a list that cannot be modified. So what's good for that? Let's say like grades. If we know grades are always A, B, C, D, and F, we can print out a grade similar to before. What are you going on about, Scott? It's too smart for me. Oh, typo. Okay, tuples have parentheses and cannot change. I did not print the whole tuple because I just printed a 1 out. Maybe. Save. Try it again. All right, we printed B. But we couldn't sit here and pop the tuple. We couldn't append the tuple. The tuple is static. It's a good way to think about it. So there are also dictionaries, which I don't think we're getting into dictionaries tonight. If we do it next week, we'll cover dictionaries, we'll cover classes. Let's see, we've got looping left, and then we're going to cover some code. We'll talk about code. Remind you on the AMA. It looks like the AMA might start early. Okay, so we're going to be going into looping. Okay. We're going to print for loops start to finish of iterate. It's a good way to think about them. So remember that we were doing for loops last week, right? So we did a for loop when we were going through our IP addresses. Oh, okay, so question on the tuple. The tuple is, why is the tuple a tuple? If you look, the tuples have parentheses. The lists have brackets. See the bracket? See the parentheses? That is the slight difference. What is the word when they can't be changed? Is it immutable? Is that the correct word? I don't have all my coding language down. Immutable. Yeah. So we're immutable. Okay. So when we talk about looping now, we're going to do something like I was talking about last week. Last week was when we looped through our IP address, right? We said, okay, we want to go through a sequence of 1 through 255, and we want to do that until it's done. So we had an iterate. The iterate was 1 to 255. We're going to continue through until we are done. That's really the theory behind a loop. The for loop is through the iterate, right? So for 1, for 2, for 3, for 255, until we finish, then we're done. Now there's while loops as well, and while loops are a little bit different. And we'll go over both of those and why they're different. So let's look at a for loop again. Let's just declare a list here. We'll declare some vegetables. I don't like vegetables, so I don't care what your favorite vegetables are. They're all gross to me. How can I not like vegetables? Pizza is a vegetable, thank you. I plead the fifth on the vegetables. All right, we've got vegetables defined. We could do a quick little loop that says for x in vegetables, print x. All this is doing is for x, which x's can be whatever you want to call this. You can call it veggies or whatever. For veggies and vegetables, you print x. All we're going to do is iterate through this list until we're done, and then we're going to stop iterating. A happy little loop. Yeah, we're like Bob Ross here. We have a happy little loop. So remember last week, same thing. We were for 1 through 255. As soon as we hit 255, we were done. This is the same concept. So let's go ahead and save this. You see here, cucumber, spinach, cabbage. Okay, we loop through that. I like hitting the button. It gives me purpose, Leah. All right, let's talk about while loops. These execute as long as true. Again, remember, capitalized D, just trying to emphasize that. Okay, a common way you're going to see these. We'll declare I equal to 1. And a lot of times you'll see while I is, let's just say less than 10. We'll print I. And on top of that, we're going to say I is plus equal to 1. So this is going to count up to 10, essentially. we're declaring that I equals 1. While I is less than 10, 1 is less than 10, we're going to print I. I put print 1. Yeah, thank you. Noticed. Print I, and then we're going to do I plus 1. So what's going to happen is I is then going to become 2 all the way till we get to 10. So all we're saying here is while true, we're going to do something. Okay, so that's it for these. We're going to cover now. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's less than, it won't print 10, you're right. It'll print 9. Yeah, I didn't put the equal sign. Keeping me on my toes, guys. You're like lawyers. You're holding me to every word I say, and I like it. You're not my mentees, you're my lawyers, my lawyers. All right, let's take a look at some code. Some other code. Let's save this. So my goal for you is that I want you to be able to read what we're about to see. You don't have to understand fully what's going on. You just need to be able to read what you're seeing in a sense and get an idea for what the application is doing. There's going to be a lot of things in here that we didn't cover, and that's fine. The goal is to be able to understand exactly what you're seeing. So I've got 2 things in here for us. Okay, let's look at the buffer overflow before. So if you've sat through a buffer overflow lesson of mine, this script might look familiar. This is a basic fuzzing script. This is written in Python too. That's okay. The concepts are still the same. So if we look at this, we're declaring that we're calling out Python here. We're importing some stuff. Now we didn't cover importing, but these are just modules, right? These are modules that we want to import that we're going to use that aren't by default sitting in Python itself, but we can import these modules and they'll do things for us. So we've got socket, like the socket module here, that's going to allow us to connect over this socket and this socket here, which is just IPv4 and a port. Well, I'm declaring it at the top that it's Python 2. Yeah. So outside of these imports, let's look at the first line. We've got something that says buffer. It's just a variable, right? So buffer is equal to 100 A's, A times 100. So this is just a string of 100 A's. Okay, now we've got a while loop sitting in here. We said while true. So as long as this is true, this loop is going to run. We've got something here called try and except. We didn't cover those, but you might be able to imagine what they are. So we're trying to do something. And if something else happens, then we're going to close out of the program, right? So you can kind of understand already what's going on. So we're actually sending a connection to this IP and this port. We're sending over a message plus that buffer variable here. So we're sending this message plus 100 A's. We're going to close out of that connection. We're going to sleep for a second. And then we're going to append buffer with another 100 A's. So it's going to become 200 A's. And it's going to try this again. As long as this connection keeps working, this loop will go on forever. All we defined is while true. Now, if we break this program, which is what fuzzing is anticipating to do, then, okay, we're going to say, hey, we crashed it. We'll print out where we crashed it, where buffer was sitting in terms of bytes, and then we'll say, okay, sys.exit, close out, and then we'll be done with this loop. I did miss the colon. Good job. I typed that up today, so thank you. We're not running it, so. But hopefully this makes sense. This is just like a base example. I'm going to show you another example here in a second of a more detailed script. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a ping sweeper or a sweeping script. Okay, this one's a little longer, and I wanted this one to be more intimidating, just a little bit more intimidating. But you'll see that even though we don't know what's going on, we have a good idea. What are we confused about? I don't want to go ahead without us being clear. Oh, okay. Not confusion on my behalf. Got it. Okay, so again, we're importing some stuff up here. We're importing some modules. Cool. Now, we have some functions, right? You see we're defining a function here called writeResult, defining a function called ping subnet, a function called main, which is common, parse argument, and then you have this if name equals main here. This is very, very common as well. So what we're looking at, we see that some things have been imported. You don't have to know what these are. Date time is kind of obvious. Subprocess, I believe, is for files. Argparse, that's for arguments. So like if you have a switch, like when you type in -- help, that's for arguments. And you'll kind of figure that out here in a second. So let's look at the first function and just see what it's doing. So you see it's defining writeResult with file name and ping. So it looks to me as if this is writing out a file. So it's declaring it as f.write. Okay, start time, it's giving a date time now. For result in ping, it's going to write to this file the result. And then it's going to write the end time. So you don't have to know how to code this, you just have to be able to know how to read this. Okay, let's look at ping subnet. For address in range 1 through 255, that looks familiar, right? We're going to yield a subprocess with poppin. All poppin does is start a process. This is going to ping the subnet, the address that we defined here, right? 1 through 255. And it's going to give it a number of 1. So we're pinging 1 time. And then it's got some information here. Don't really need to know what that's doing either. Okay, we're defining our main function. And down here, we have parse arguments. So this is where this argparse comes into play. If you look through here, you can kind of make out what it's saying. Okay, so it's giving you a description. It's an IP checker. It gives you the usage. The epilogue's at the end, just giving you the how to run the syntax. So it says Python ipscanner.py 192.168.1 and then a -f to save to a file. What if the subnet's not /24? Then this script won't work for you. This is a very basic script. You're probably not writing your own ping sweeper anyway. You could write it a lot faster in Bash. This is just a good practice one. Okay, and then, so you've got your parser add argument. So it's got a subnet argument. It's got this -f or -- file name argument for the file name. And then you've got these statements in here where if you don't have your subnet, is what it looks like, or it's not in the range of 1 through 255, then it's going to say you're not in a valid subnet. So it's looking that these have 3 numbers, right? Or 1 to 3 numbers, I should say, and that the numbers are between 1 and 255. It'll say, okay, this is not a valid subnet if you don't have it correct. And then there are no white spaces that could be in the file name. Other than that, it's going to return the argument subnet, argument file name. And then this is just a safety measure here. So that's really it. You don't need to know exactly as a junior level pen tester how to write this. You need to be able to look at code like this and say, okay, I can kind of read it and understand what's going on. I might not know everything that's inside of there. There might be some things that I need to Google or look up, but for the most part, the concepts are there. The concepts that we talked about. You see a function. The other one, you saw a loop. You see a for loop right here. You see a for loop right here. You're understanding what these things are. You see a conditional statement here with the if, right? You see or, you see not. So these things are commonplace. And my goal tonight was to teach you the commonplace. My goal wasn't to make you some super coder or make you, I don't know, well versed, but just enough to be able to get by. If you put in the time over the week, or if you want to put in time later, with the course I sent out on Codecademy and the one from Cybrary, those are fantastic. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, if you weren't here, I only used the Cybrary course prep for my OSCP. I didn't use anything else. That was all I needed. Got through my OSCP, no problem. A lot of the OSCP is just finding code like this and swapping out what you need and being able to read and understand what you're doing. Sometimes you'll run into code on ExploitDB that is broken. You'll have to put that through an IDE or understand where sometimes I've seen spaces wrong for Python code, and I've just had issues with code before off of ExploitDB. So you just have to kind of understand what you're looking at, that spacing is important, what some of these functions are and these tools are. So that's really, really it. I actually finished a little bit earlier. I'll put up my poll. If you guys want to do another round of Python next week, we absolutely can do Python again next week. If not, we're going to dive right into pen testing. We're going to start with the procedure, the methodology. So let me click on some things here. Hello, I'm back. Let me find my little poll program here. All right, I will give you guys 5 minutes to vote. And there you go. We're at 5-3. It's a race. It's pretty split down the middle, guys. Where are the kittens? Well, Nate took 2 kittens. So I'm down 2 kittens thanks to Nate. And they're doing great. That's awesome, man. So if you exclamation vote 0, then you will get a vote for yes. Exclamation vote 1 is a vote for no. You have to type in what it said in the prompt, or else it will not work. Exclamation vote space 0. Exclamation vote space 1. You guys need to learn how to read. Got 3 minutes left. The vote is 10-9. 10-9. You are split 50-50. The people want both, apparently. More snakes. And you can only vote once. The instructions for voting were already up there. A 0 is a yes, a 1 is a no. A 0 means yes, move on to Python again. A 1 means no, we're going to do hacking next week. You guys are killing me. If you already voted, it won't let you vote again, regardless if it was wrong or right. So, I don't know why the results don't display. Sure, guys, here. Hold on. There you go. No is winning by 1 with 1 minute and 18 seconds left. It's not rigged. You guys need to know how to vote. If you guys could read directions, this wouldn't have went so poorly. I'll tell you what, we got a lot of lurkers. Oh, snap. If it ends in a tie, I will give 1 minute to vote again. 1 minute to vote again. And you guys are going to see, I'm going to type this in, and we're going to make it very specific. Uh-oh. It's over. He held the vote till the end. All right, we're doing another week of Python. Good job, guys. You get 1 more week. That's all you get out of me. We'll do IDEs, we'll do dictionaries, classes. We'll work on some more next week. I'll try to get us into networking as well. I think that'll be a good idea for us. Importing, we didn't cover. We didn't cover modules in the sense that I wanted to, I guess. Like modules being some of the things that we can import or just run on the line. Like we could start our own web server with Python. We can run an FTP server with Python. There's a lot of cool things that we can do that you're going to learn later in the course. But if we're going to do a second week of Python, I can teach you as well. You can call the next one Python 102.py. I'll allow it. Thanks for the sub, guys. You're awesome. Pokeballs all around. I just put the Pokeballs in today. I'm trying to get them all in there. I could post the scripts on Discord, yeah. I'll tag it in there after this. All right. Coming in. AMA time. AMA time. Second, I'm closing some things, guys. Notifications all around. We're gonna do type racer. Are we? Do you want to do type racer right now? We'll do it tonight. We'll do it tonight. Well, tomorrow. Let's get you some sleep first. Sorry, I missed some things. What's my favorite color? Blue, probably. What's the deal with the if name main? So that's like a protection. I really don't know if I can explain it well. Let me pull it up for you. Let me have somebody who can explain this way better. Here, I'll give you a whole article on it if you want. Hey, thanks, Fahad. I appreciate it. You're awesome, man. Don't get things twisted. I am not a dev by any means. I'm here to teach you the basics. So I had an interview. That asked me that question: the 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck. Where did you see yield? In the last script? Sorry, I know you've asked that before. All right, so yield, I'm looking it up because I have never used it. Yield is used to create a generator function where every execution of your function returns the next value. So you would have to call your function multiple times, thus adding the yielded value to a list defined outside. When there is nothing to return, your function will break. Does that make sense? What happened in that interview? That interview was whack, man. They asked me what state I would remove from the United States if I had a choice. They asked me about that duck size question. They were a special group. I won't name names or anything, but this is a pen test interview. Oh, it was pen testing. They thought they were cute. I chose one horse-sized duck. Because I just don't think 1 versus 100, you're going to win that. So Obama chose the horse-sized duck. Well, good. I have got something in common with Obama. I said that I would remove Alabama from the United States. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. Oh, so the Cybrary question. My choices are the course I sent out for Python. Georgia Weidman's course, while very dated now, is still okay. It'll still teach you the concepts. So I would look into that just for the concepts. If anything, just watch what she's doing. You don't even have to follow along. Take notes. See what she does with Metasploit. Just like pick out some of the things that you like. It's really like an OSCP refresher course, I think. It's still worth watching. Okay, I've worked help desk for 1 year and was recently promoted to security analyst due to the position opening up, being the most qualified in the company. If I were to hang around for years' experience, would I be able to leverage the job title towards pen testing? Security analyst can definitely get you into pen testing. You're still going to need certifications and proof to back up that you know what you're talking about. So all pen testing jobs want proof. No, I don't really see a lot of pen testing jobs out there that are like going to train you to be the pen tester. They want you to at least have a good foundation, whether that's OSCP or eLearn security or some sort of training to prove that. But having security experience in the field definitely looks good. It's definitely not a bad thing. I would say you could do it for 1 year and find a job. You don't have to stay anywhere for more than a year if you don't want to. The cyber field is insane. It's insane right now. We have less pen testers than we have jobs. We have more jobs than pen testers. So supply and demand, last year the salaries are like 120, 130. This year they're like 150, 160. It just can't keep up with what's going on. So you doing 1 year stint or whatever, just getting your credentials and getting up to speed is almost good enough depending where you live. There are people that I consider like pay your dues people, like, and that's kind of, I think, the old way of thinking where I worked as a network guy for 5 years before I moved on. You don't have to do that. That's my opinion. I did 1 year in help desk, 1 year in networking, and then I became a pen tester. It took me 2 years. From being an accountant to being a pen tester took me 2 years. You don't have to have that mentality. Did you ask why Alabama? Do we have to ask why Alabama? Is that really a question? I don't think that's a question I even need to answer. Good night, Leah. Thanks for hanging out. So, in terms of, I'm going to read the question just for people that can't see it. What do you use to learn Python? As far as resources, mostly I've been using material on Udemy with practical exercises, which have been pretty good. That's good. I definitely like the practical aspect. Like automate the boring stuff would be something good, or just a book like that, or challenges. Like if there's challenges online to make you think logically about what you have to do, there's some good challenge websites. Like the one thing you want to avoid is just being told what to do, which I feel like Codecademy does. I still sent out Codecademy because it offers you some introduction to the concepts, but you don't want to be told like write this in. You want to kind of have to think for yourself. Another good way is just to think of a program you want to write and start thinking the logic, write out the logic of the program, and then start entering in the pieces, and then start cleaning up your code as you go. Do I think there'll eventually be a glut in pen testers? I mean, okay. At some point, everything has a rise and a fall, right? Like they say that in business school. Even the best companies will end at some point. I feel the same way about jobs. Like, yeah, you're gonna have the economics of it, right? At some point, everything's gonna even out, or at some point there may be too many. But I don't see that happening for a very long time. And in the time frame that we're in, 5 to 10 years, still going to be a viable career. By then, with that experience, you should have been a senior level, director level, doing something else anyway. It's just got to advance and move on by that point. Sorry, I'm reading through, guys. I'm a little behind on these. Good night, Leo. So advice from the chat. Scott said the big thing in general as an engineer is to learn to deal with edge cases. Common stuff is going to be automatic. That is definitely going to be true. Just throwing that out there for you watching on video later. Is that a string or a Boolean statement? You got jokes, White Rose. And you notice every little detail, I feel like. I don't know if that's your personality, but that's the vibe I get from you. Gray's in here trolling. I don't know much about Go, I'll be honest with you. Is that where automation's moving? I've been hearing more about it. I've been hearing about Rust too. I don't know much about Rust either. Somebody told me it was like the hipster coding language. Take that as you will. I have no idea. Go is like Python and C combined. Did you just risk 500 on Heist? Do you have 500? Nice. Nice. We gotta give something away. I don't know if next week. I kind of want it to be a surprise when I do it. Because then everybody's just going to be in here to watch for a giveaway. We don't want that. I tell you what, the guy who broke the heist system, he got it good, man. Yeah, there are cats to give away. I've got 2 more to give away. Just saying. So our fishing engagements depend on scope. It just depends. Like sometimes people are out of scope. So if a lot of times it's like, hey, this accounting department just sent out like money, right? Or the finance department sent out money. And we want to see if you can get them to do it again because they've gone through training, reprimand, whatever. We need to make sure they're not doing it again. So we'll go in there, we'll try that. So sometimes they're very, very specific. Sometimes we have campaigns where they're the entire company. So it just depends on the engagement and the scope. How much custom code do you have to write on a pen test? Next to 0 if you don't want to. Honestly, like for pen testing. Now you can write your own code and automate things. Like we have custom code that's kind of like a team project that makes things just automated and a little bit easier. But you don't have to do that. Is the gray one gone yet? We had 2 gray ones. If you're talking about the one on stream, then yeah, you're going to have to fight Nate for her. There is a gray boy as well, and he is still very much here. You don't need to write any custom code for the OSCP. 0. The OSCP is not as hard as people make it out to be. What it is time. It's a lot of time commitment. Once you put in enough time to it, you'll pass it. But like I remember reading all these blogs and people freaking out like about the buffer overflows and things like that, and it's not as complicated as people say, and it's not realistic. Like the exam is not going to be the labs aren't really going to be realistic. Like it's just it's something that needs to be done. It's not. If it was not an HR filter right now, I would not advocate for that course or that exam. Like that's the only reason I even tell people to do it. When HR filters move over to something like eLearn Security or SANS somehow drops down to a grand, then I would point people that way. Any specific tools? I'm working on my own campaigns myself. So a lot of tools use Go Fish if you're talking phishing assessments. If your company or the company pays for Know Before, if you want something that's already done out for you, Know Before is one of them. But you can spin up an AWS server with Go Fish and pretty much accomplish everything you need to. JBL, I don't know if you should drop PDFs in there in Discord. If somebody wants them, then maybe you can ask, but I would limit on file sharing unless it's actually an open source book, if that makes sense. Night, Scott. Thanks for hanging out, man. Don't let anybody get you down on it, White Rose. It's not that bad. It's a necessity almost to get your foot in the door. I've seen people get their foot in the door without it, but they've had years of experience. If you want the quick route, at least to an interview, that's it. You still got to do way more for an interview, but it's a good route. I see that that an Alabama meme was posted in Discord. Thank you for that, Gray. I appreciate that. So the CEH, it's not going to really teach you anything on hacking. Like it'll give you some introduction to tools. I just don't think the money is worth it. Or it's like not worth it for the money. My employer paid like $1,800 for that certification. And I can't say that I learned anything that would have made me into a pen tester. It's no offense in terms of the exam. So the certification's good if you want to work on the government side. If you're looking to work DoD 8570, then that's something you might want to look at. But if you're going on the private sector, then the CEH isn't going to hold much weight. I've been laughed at for having the CEH before in an interview. I'm not going to lie about it. So just things to think about. There's better training out there for the price, especially for the price. The OSCP is cheaper than the CEH if you're under 2 years of experience in the security field. Think about that. The CEH costs that much if you're have 2 years or less experience in security. They make you buy their training. Can I brain dump security questions I've gotten in interviews? Yeah, we could talk about that. I plan on making a video on that. But if we're talking interviews for pen tests, it's typically methodology. So they'll say, okay, what's your methodology for an external penetration test? And then you get in. What's your methodology now that you're on an internal network? So they'll do that. They'll ask you about specific ports, what kind of tools you might use against those ports, what kind of tools you're running on an Active Directory network, maybe what you're looking for on a Linux box. They'll definitely ask about web app. They'll ask about your web app methodology. What's like the first things that you do? They'll ask you questions. Okay, you're testing it, and you find that it has cross-site scripting. What are the types of cross-site scripting? What do they mean? You know, what are the fixes for cross-site scripting? How would you tell a dev to fix it? They might ask you about random stuff. I've been asked about deserialization, SQL injection. I've been asked to explain what a parameterized query is, like in code. That one went really deep. So it just depends. That was like a web app interview more than it was a network interview. So just be prepared to talk any type of hacking. Know your OWASP top 10 when it comes to web app. Know not only the attacks, but know the remediations in depth. Don't just say, oh yeah, SQL injection parameterized queries. Thank you, next. You know, they're going to be like, well, we need more information. What is that? Another thing that I see come up pretty much in every interview is hacking on wireless. So pretty much everywhere you go does wireless assessments, unless you're going to like a strict application or web app shop. So just know the methodology for that. It wouldn't hurt to know the methodology for enterprise as well, if you're dealing with like EAP and the tools that you could use for that. But mostly they're satisfied with capturing the 4-way handshake and cracking it. I haven't seen anybody dive deep into enterprise. But it could take a lot of different paths. What's a good course for wireless? Any blog that you can go read on how to crack a wireless WPA2. It's not that hard. It's literally like a 10-minute process. You're just trying to capture a handshake, and then you run the handshake against the list. That's the basic way. If you're doing some type of evil twin or something else, then that gets a little bit more complicated. But yeah, null byte and an alpha card. That's accurate. I don't know if I have my alpha card out. I did have my alpha card out. I don't know what I've done with it, guys. Yeah, this little thing. This is all you need. It's like $30. So this one, the newer versions of Kali have stopped supporting the drivers or something. I don't know. I had to do some weird stuff with it to get it to work. It used to be plug and go, but the newer ones are plug and go. So what this allows you to do is allows you to do injection. So basically you can listen on this and inject on this, where if you can't just use like your own wireless card. Exactly, yeah. It's packet injection. So you can't just use the wireless card you're on. You have to have something that's a listening device that can inject and capture a handshake. I plan on doing a video, maybe a live stream on hacking for wireless. I think we could pull it off. I would have to send out like a 2 or 3 week notice on that, because I'd want you guys to get routers or something like really cheap, like a $10 router that we could hack. But we may cause a shortage in eBay routers if we do that. But any router will do. You could hack your own Wi-Fi if you wanted to. If you knew the password and you captured the four-way handshake, then all you'd have to do is put the password into the list and you would find your Wi-Fi password. It's really not that bad. Somebody said Panda PAU 09 is plug and play and works well. Yeah, I may need to update my alpha. Especially if we update our OS or anything for work. Do I have a schedule set aside for training or practice? What do you mean? Like for just like my own training or practice? Pretty much like any downtime at work, I'm either practicing or doing something. Like I've got certifications that I can work on, or I study stuff. I read HackerOne reports to try to figure out what those geniuses are doing on some of these things. Like some of those are insane. But I mean, just like you just got to keep up. If you got slow downtime at work, it'll be good. If you don't have downtime at work, you're just gonna have to set time aside and try to figure it out. What's good about the EJPT? So I haven't taken it, White Rose. I just think it's a good, like, if you're going to take that, I would take that a million times over the CEH, and it's only $400 for the certification and everything. You can get it less if you don't want the certification. But it's just like a good foundation. Now, if you talk about the ECPPT, which is one step up from that, and you compare that to the OSCP, it's much, much, much more current. So if you have like no hacking knowledge or anything, the EJPT is a pretty good start. A lot of people recommend it. I haven't seen anybody that I've talked to that's gone through it that hated it. And then the ECPPT is really where it's at in terms of trying to compete with the OSCP. Yeah, HackerOne's a bug bounty program. There's Synac. There's like two more that are out there. Bugcrowd's another one. Yeah, subs also have a 60% win rate on the heist, where the rest is 50-50. What certification do I recommend for working in private sector? You're definitely gonna need, if you're trying to go pen testing, you'll likely need some sort of SAN certification, like a GPen, the OSCP. The eLearn security isn't getting picked up by HR yet, but it's so much better than the rest. I feel like it's hard. You might need multiple. You definitely, if you want to break in, the OSCP plus outside knowledge on Active Directory and web application penetration testing will get you a job somewhere. You need to know about internal Active Directory attacks. The common five are like, there's an article that I send out. Let me find it. Like how I broke into your network before lunch. How I hacked your Active Directory network. I forget. Let me find it. I'm struggling. Let me see. Got it. Top 5 ways I got domain admin on your internal network before lunch. This is the article. You need to know that kind of stuff, wireless and web app, to be really well-rounded. And patience. Everybody's picky in this field for hiring for whatever reason. Yeah, that's correct. I passed on the first time, 45 days, about 200 hours to study for the OSCP. It's okay to fail the first time around, though. I wouldn't worry about it. Would I rather be a freelance pen tester or rather join a company that employs you? It depends where you're at in your career. Like at this point in my career, I'd rather be like work for an employer because it's safe, and I don't have the name or the credibility or anything for people to want to hire me at this point. Nor do I have the time to try to go and sell myself. You know, like the time and effort to build up your own company is really hard. So unless I had like a good amount of money put away that I could pay myself for a few months to do that, or like some crazy client that just drops in my lap that's worth my year's salary or something like that, it would take a while to open up your own practice. So, I mean, that's like everybody's dream is to do their own thing, right? But for me, my goal is to get experience, do what I do now, but my passion's teaching. So, like, at some point, I either want to teach, certification courses or do like private trainings with companies, things like that would be cool, and just kind of pen tests on the side, however that looks. If it's doing contract work for my company now, 5 years down the road, or whatever it is, like, I think at some point my point or part in this field is to be teaching others how to get into the field. But thank you, I appreciate that, White Rose. Am I doing the CTF at CarolinaCon? I don't know, man. My talk is at 10 o'clock at night. Like, I'm following up some decent names, like Jason Haddix and everything else. Like, the first night's got some big names on it, so I'm honored on that. But when I first saw it, it showed me on day 2 at like 5 o'clock, which is good because it was right before dinner, the dinner break. So I was like, yeah, I'll talk for 30 minutes. Everybody's going to be happy because I didn't talk for the full hour, and they'll get to go to dinner early. But now it's at 10 o'clock. So same thing. I'm the last talk. I'll probably talk for 30 minutes, then everybody's going to go to the bar and party, I'm assuming is what they do. But I don't know, man. So if the CTF starts on that Friday, I probably won't do it. If it's on that Saturday, I might go back on Saturday. And maybe Sunday. My manager is actually talking on Sunday. So when is it? It is the last weekend in April. The 26th through 28th. CTF started at 8 a.m. on the Friday or on a Saturday? Thank you guys for all the compliments on the teaching. You're really awesome. I don't think it's going to be streamed. What they typically do for cons when they give talks, they record it. So they'll record it and somebody will post it somewhere. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. I won't have rights to it or anything. I may do like an impromptu random 30-minute Twitch stream where I give the talk just as a practice. But I haven't gotten the PowerPoint presentation done yet. So we'll see. Good luck, JBL. You got a 60% chance to win. Oh no, you guys. Sorry. Uh well, Tinfoil, I appreciate that. Your name is Tinfoil, so I don't know if I should take that with a grain of salt or what, but you may have some predictions there. So the heist, basically, if you're a normal person or whatever, you get 50-50 chance to win your money, double your money. If you are a sub, you get 60% chance to double your money. People just like betting all their money. The talk should be pretty good though. We'll see. It's going to be on credential stuffing. I had this instant. So I'll tell you the situation. Basically, with credential stuffing, you are going through breached passwords or breached accounts that are out there, and you're trying to stuff them into logins that you find. So in this instance, I was hacking a company, and they had an exposed Lotus Note server. It's like really kind of older technology that allowed me entry with one of the passwords that I had found. These are just like have I been pwned kind of breaches. So I got into this Lotus Notes server, and from there, Lotus Notes itself has its own exploit where you can dump users and passwords from there. So these credentials were not good. None of the credentials I found were valid. What they were, though, they got me into this area. They weren't Active Directory credentials, is what I should say. They weren't getting me in anywhere else, like the VPN or Outlook or wherever I wanted to get into. But it got me into Lotus Notes. From Lotus Notes, I was able to dump more user credentials, passwords, and everything in clear text because of the vulnerability. Now, what I did was I took all those usernames and passwords and I started stuffing Outlook. So Outlook web app, OWA, started stuffing Outlook. Now, Outlook has a feature to it where, the company one wasn't rate limiting, so I can send requests over and over again. They weren't account lockouts or anything blocking my IP. That was a no-no. The two is Outlook has a feature where there's a time delay. So it knows if an account is a valid user account or not a valid user account by the time based on a response. Basically, what I was getting back was a whole list of the users that were valid or invalid, basically who worked there or who didn't work there. From there, I had about 1,000 valid users, which means I could spray pretty instantly because it didn't take the time delay was slow on the non-user side. So once you got clear through all that, the spraying's really fast. So what I did was I took those accounts None of them were good for the username and password that we dumped from Lotus Notes, but instead of credential stuffing, I did something called password spraying. So password spraying is where you take something like password one, and you take all the usernames you have and you use password one with all the usernames and see what happens. Well, it was fall of 2018, and so I put fall, capital F, ALL 2018 exclamation, passed it to those 1,000 users, and I got a hit. I got a success. So I went to the VPN. The VPN didn't have two-factor authentication. Logged in with that user. I was on their network. So I called the guy. I called the manager of the team. And I said, I'm on your network. And he said, okay, who's the user? I told him who the user was. He's like, yeah, that's just a low privilege user. What are you going to do with it? Like, there's nothing you can do with it. So then I proceeded to get domain admin, which is a whole nother story that I'll probably include in there. But basically went from external access through a chain of exploits all the way into domain admin. And it's really, yeah, it was a fun one. You're limited on your heist. You get a 3-minute cooldown on every heist. You guys heisted too much last week. People complained. You shouldn't feel bad. The talk will be recorded. Plus, I'll give a talk here, I'm sure. And thanks, Kev. I appreciate that. How long did it take me? I would say I got in there day one of that pen test, and then it took maybe another day to get domain admin. Domain admin wasn't bad either. I actually did man in the middle attack and got the IT guy's password that told me that. So the manager's password. It was his name capitalized with a 1 after it. They did have domain accounts or domain admin accounts, so they have a user account and a domain admin account. But I was able to dump his hash or dump the hashes on that computer, which were local admins. They set the same image of local admin for all the computers in their network. So I was into like 1,000 computers in a second. I just passed the hash around, got into every computer. From there, I did token impersonation and got into domain admin. I was also able to log in through a flaw that they had onto their domain controller with a non-domain account and create an account for myself there as well. So they had multiple paths to domain admin. It was really interesting. So my first pen test was okay. It was like a little nerve-wracking, but it was an external pen test, so it felt like it's like everything you see before, right? Like you have to think about an external versus an internal. An external, you're locked out, so a Vuln Hub or Hack the Box or OSCP, it's almost the same feeling where you're scanning it, you're seeing what the Nmap results give you, and then you're trying to find a way in, regardless of what it is. I don't think it was a very big external because it was my first one. Like the company, you got to build your trust and work your way in and earn your assessments kind of deal. So it took a little bit, but I think I didn't get in on the first one. I wrote a really good report. I feel like there were a ton of vulnerabilities, and I spent a lot more time on it than was allocated. But just learning to write the reports, learning to what I was looking for. A lot of the time I spent looking through other reports that other pen testers had written just to kind of see like what kind of findings are common for them and just try to learn from them and see what I'm seeing. So it wasn't bad. It took a couple pen tests to actually break into one for me. But that's definitely the best feeling. Like you get asked sometimes like what's your favorite assessment on an interview? The internals are a bloodbath. Like the internals, There's not been an internal that I've been on that I have not gotten domain admin. Not to say that there's not one out there that I would stump me, because there definitely probably is. They're just they're not as secure. People care about locking their front door, but they don't care as much about locking their inside doors, if that makes sense. So I've had some fun ways of getting domain admin too that are great. Any pen test reports you could read for research? Not on the external internal side that I know of, and I can't share reports because of non-disclosure. However, I do plan on writing up some reports, like a demo report when this course is over. That's going to be the last thing we cover. I'm going to ship out a report for you guys to see how I'd write some of the things that we covered in the class. That way you guys have like some sort of foundation. Because like the way, if you've ever done the OSCP or looked at their reporting, that's not what a real report looks like. Hardly ever do you see step by step in a pen test report. A lot of times it's like a picture, a summary of what the exploit was, the impact and the likelihood of it. You get some references and a recommendation, things like that, but you're definitely not doing a step-by-step how I hacked you. Those would take forever to write, and I don't know how much use they would be. Because you got to think most of the people are going to read these are C-levels. You might have some technical people, but a lot of times you're dealing with much higher non-technical people just making decisions. What are your thoughts about Pentest Plus, CYSA Plus, and CASP Plus? Recently got CH, now aiming for OSCP. I need a lot of work to get the OSCP. I have the Pentest Plus. I think that the Pentest Plus was a really good exam. I took it in beta. I took it to renew my my Security Plus on a whim because it was $50 to take the exam. And I thought it was really good. It was tough. There was a lot of coding questions on there, like Python-related questions. And it definitely tested me to the limit, but in terms of is it worth it, I don't know. You're not going to see Pentest Plus anywhere on any job things right now. It's just not there. It's too new. The Pentest Plus may show up on the DoD 8570. If it replaced the CEH, I wouldn't be upset about it. I think it was that good. I don't know enough about the CYSA. I've heard people say that you can see that on a lot of job opportunities. I don't know a lot about the CASP either because I haven't taken either of those. If you're wanting to get into pen testing, if that is your goal, I would shoot for the OSCP or learn some eLearn security. If your goal is to just get pen test knowledge, the Pentest Plus may cover that for you. Honestly. Any books for web app and CTF? So web apps don't age that much. The web application hacker's handbook is kind of old, but it's still relevant. I would definitely look at that if you're looking for that. There's something like called the Tangled Web. I believe I've heard good reviews about. I've not read that one. What else? And you said for CTFs? So for CTFs, I would just read write-ups. That's the best thing to do. Pretty much every major CTF has a write-up to it. So just go in there. Like, that's how I got pretty decent at Stego, because I just went in and read Stego write-ups. And then I made my own Stego write-up just like to have a reference point of things to look for so I can recall and give other people a reference point too. So people do that with everything. We did the same thing. We won a CTF over at VetSec last year. So one of the guys wrote up the binary exploits and things like that. And it was really good to learn from that side of it. What do you recommend for CTF sites? ctftime.org. I'll type it in for you. It tells you when the next coming CTFs are and when to register for those. Also, if you've got a local event going on, those are fun. Any of the B-sides typically have CTFs. Sometimes, if you're in a big enough city, the DEF CON groups, they do CTFs. All right, White Rose. Thanks for chatting. Nighty night. All right, Jake. It's nice chatting with you, man. It might be a knowledge gap filler. So my question is, what does CompTIA have to study for the Pen Test Plus? Like, I was already a pen tester when I took that. I think it's a good exam. I definitely think it's a good exam. I'm just curious what they teach. I have no idea what they teach. Because I just took it in beta. I didn't study for it. I didn't have any prep material, any of that. So I don't know how much has changed, but there were like coding modules where you had to organize code correctly. You had to be able to understand code on quite a few sections. I know several OSCPs who took that exam and failed it because the OSCP doesn't cover code. It really doesn't. Thanks, Fahad. Thank you so much for the sub and all the gifts. You're awesome, man. Night, night, Kev. How's Wednesday doing, Nate? Is she still being a couch kitty, or is she coming out and giving love? She's warming up. That's good, man. She's a very independent cat, but I think that she'll be the type of cat that is like your cat and kind of be like distant from other people, would be my guess. Do I earn much working in the security field? Yes. It's quite a bit. Night, Gray. So I started at help desk at 42. I think I left help desk at 50K. My network job was 80K. I think of my first pen testing, like when I first started pen testing, I was at 102. And now I guess I could say it because I think everybody knows in my team what each other makes. So I make 140 now. I used to not say it because I didn't want to like say it with the team or everything else, but we all make the same thing. It's pretty good money for Charlotte. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the cost of living out here isn't that bad. Up in Nova and in DC, it's much, much more. I had tattoos before this career. I'm just happy you took the kittens, Nate. I'm glad they got to be paired together. That's really our goal. Like, our goal is to try to give both these boys away to the same person, or if we can, give one of them away to somebody we know and just keep two. It's hard. I want to keep all three if I could. It's my army side, I guess. Like, here's the thing about tattoos. Like, the tattoos they're what I like, right? And if an employer or somebody thinks bad about them, I dress professionally wherever I go. Like, if I go to a client, I'm dressed in a suit. But if an employer doesn't want to hire me because I have tattoos, then I don't want to work for that employer, if that makes sense. So you just got to be you and who you are. And if your employer doesn't want you for who you are, then you don't want to work for them anyway. It's that simple. They're becoming much, much more commonplace. It was a little bit more taboo when I got out of college and I was working in accounting where everybody was suit and tie. So yep, life is too short. Do what you want. Do what you want when you want. If somebody wants to take me for how I look and not for what I'm capable of doing, then that's their loss. I don't have tattoos on my face or knuckles or neck or anything crazy. They're all coverable. The army learned that real quick too when they tried to ban tattoos from like below the elbow or whatever it was. That didn't last that long. Nah, I need some knuckle tattoos like Thug Life. But if you get Thug Life, you gotta get Thug Life across your stomach, right? Or like, only God can judge me with the praying hands. I need some real gangster tattoos. Nerd Life. What did Tommy Lee have? Mayhem? Maybe I'll get Mayhem tattooed across my stomach. That just sounds painful, actually. Nothing about the stomach sounds like a fun time for a tattoo. All right, my people, I'm going to call a 5-minute timer on the stream. We're dwindling down a little bit, which is okay. We ended early. So I'll probably take last call on questions just so I can get to bed a little early tonight. We went till midnight last time. The best security cert for CS major graduates? What are you trying to work in? I guess what field are you trying to work in, Dragon? Cybersecurity, but like what specifically in cybersecurity? Offense, defense, exploit development, forensics. Is CS major cybersecurity major, or is CS major computer sci? Okay, just making sure. Offense is like hacking, red team, uh, penetration testing, etc. A CS major with the OSCP would get picked up really quick. I mentored a CS major out of college, and he got picked up by a pretty prominent pentesting group without really any pentesting knowledge. So he got paid $90K for his first job. They love the computer science. Love it. So if you can add the OSCP on top of your comp sci, I think you'd be gold, to be honest. Yeah, no problem. A lot of the research places like it. Like the places where you'll be developing tools, stuff like that. The more boutique shops, I would call them. I don't know if Security Plus is going to help you unless you just want a foundation in security knowledge, to be honest. Did I set up my own lab to get better at AD? I did not set up my own lab. We're going to try to set up our own labs for Active Directory in this course. That is the goal. Unless something drastic changes, that is definitely the goal. I still have to get my hands on a Windows Server license. I have one somewhere floating around here. So, but most of my internal training came from work and sitting with other teammates who had already done it before. I got a lot of internal training. I was really fortunate to land a job that was willing to train me on a lot of that stuff. It took me 200 hours and 45 days. I think I got through 35 machines in the labs before I took my exam. I have not done National Cyber League. I've heard of it. I haven't actually done it. If you've never done any pen testing before, the EJPT is a good foundation for the OSCP. If you've messed around with Hack the Box and you have like a comfortable feeling, or done Vuln Hubs, things like that, you understand the process, the hacking process, the scanning, and the exploitation, etc., then maybe you can jump right into the OSCP. Honestly, my opinion, and this hasn't changed until the OSCP changes, is that some basic Python, the course I sent out, and the Georgia Weidman course, both over at Cybrary. If you do both of those, just watch them, understand them, you can register for the OSCP, you'll be fine. The OSCP is not that bad. It's really not. It's a lot of time commitment. That's the number one issue. The exam sucks. And a lot of the exam is luck of the draw. I very well could have got lucky on my first one. Those exams boxes are stupid hard. It's not realistic. Like, you might have to get a little lucky on your test, but it is what it is. What two did I say? So there's a course called Python for Security Professionals. That's by Joe Perry. And there's like an advanced penetration testing by Georgia Weidman. Both of those are on Cybrary. Make sure the Joe Perry course is the archive course. It'll say it in the URL. because he has released a updated course on Python, but it is not the Security Professionals course that is more detailed. I'm talking about the OSCP labs, Strawberry. Word on the street is the boxes on the exam are 2018 and newer. That's just word on the street. I have no confirmation on that. But yes, that would be due to the leaking of the answers. Somebody just needs to leak the whole lab. I shouldn't say that because I don't really mean that. But they need to update their stuff. Like, the only way they updated their exams was because of that leak. Rumor has it they're updating. They're working on it. But who knows? I have never paid for Cybrary Pro. I don't know if it's worth it or not. I couldn't tell you that answer. I'm sorry. Is there an open platform where you can train or test some machines? Yeah, VolnHub's good. You can also do Hack the Box. And congrats on getting your Hack the Box code, Green Dragon. Sorry, I'm just seeing that. Now, that's no rumor, Cosmo. That is fact. You are now proctored. You're proctored and watched for your OSCP. Thank you for the sub, Randall. I appreciate it. Randy Savage. I will eat a Slim Jim in your honor, my friend. Oh, yeah. All right, any other questions? Last call, last call. Thanks, Nate. Thanks, JBL. I appreciate it, man. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being interactive and asking questions. And thanks for everybody who was answering other people's questions as well, because that was really helpful. I wouldn't have had the time to actually to sit back and answer and then keep going back and forth tonight. So thanks, everybody. So we voted Python for next week. I'll have to come up with some more stuff. I thought I was Python materialed out, but I'll come up with another lesson. We'll get into some more advanced stuff and see what Python can do. So Is Kali 2019 better to use than 2018? I always like to be up to date. There's some breaks. Things break. They remove stuff. It's weird, but I always like to stay up to date if I can. Plus, it has Metasploit 5 on it. Definitely worth having. A lot of new modules that are put in there. And what are my thoughts on Parrot? I've heard good things. Don't know much about it because I haven't used it. I need to download it and get on that train, I guess. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next week. We'll be doing more Python. Again, if you're out in South Carolina this week, come stop by this weekend and say hello. So, catch you later.